18 times. Let that number sink in for a moment. Most men would break after one death threat. Most leaders would flee their country after two. But on the night of January 3rd, 2026, the enemies of Burkina Faso struck for the 18th time. They thought this was the end. They thought that with enough money, enough betrayal, and enough darkness, they could finally extinguish the flame of African sovereignty. But they were wrong. As the sirens wailed across the capital city of Ouagadougou, tearing through the silence of the night, fear initially gripped the hearts of the people. Mothers held their children tighter, wondering if their nation was about to fall back into chaos. The reports were terrifying. This was not just a random attack. It was cold, calculated, and terrifyingly precise. It was an assassination attempt designed to change the future of Burkina Faso in a single heartbeat. But there is something the plotters, with all their millions of dollars in foreign intelligence, failed to understand. You cannot kill a man who has already given his life to his people. As one of our community members wisely commented recently, nobody can touch him because God is always with him. While the world sees a military captain, millions of us see something else. We see a spiritual battle. We see a man standing alone against a system of exploitation that has drained Africa for centuries. On that fateful night, Ibrahim Traoré did not just survive. He exposed the very face of the devil. This was not just an attack on a president. It was an attack on you, on me, and on everyone who believes in justice. But who was really pulling the strings? Who paid 70 million francs to turn a brother against his own blood? And why are the most powerful forces in the West so terrified of this one young man? Tonight, we are going to peel back the layers of this conspiracy. We are going to look at the evidence that the mainstream media refuses to show you. We are going to talk about the betrayal, the money, and the miraculous survival that has left the world stunned. Prepare yourselves, because the story you are about to hear is not just news. It is a warning. To understand the depth of this evil, we cannot just look at the shadows. We must look at the faces. After the failed attempt, the Burkinabe government did not just issue a statement. They made an arrest that changed everything. The man in handcuffs was named Saliv Sawad. He was not a foreign soldier invading from across the border. He was a local, a man who walked among the people, yet he was harboring a dark secret that would shock the nation. Under interrogation, the truth began to spill out, and it was uglier than anyone imagined. Sawad confessed. He didn't just admit to being a participant. He revealed the mechanics of a machine built to destroy a country from the inside out. He admitted to receiving 70 million CFA francs. 70 million. That was the price tag put on the stability of his own homeland. That was the price for the blood of his president. But here's the part that breaks the heart of any patriot, whether you are in Ouagadougou or in Ohio. Sawad confessed that this money was not used to buy sophisticated weapons. It was used to buy souls, specifically the souls of the youth. He targeted the unemployed, the desperate, and the hungry. These were young men and women who wanted a future, but instead, they were offered cash to burn down their own house. They were told lies. They were manipulated into thinking they were fighting for change, when in reality, they were being used as human shields for a coup. Does this sound familiar to you? We have seen this playbook before. We see it in the West, where paid agitators hijack peaceful protests to create chaos. It is a tactic as old as time. Exploit the vulnerable to do the dirty work of the elite. These young people were not criminals by nature. They were victims of a system that weaponizes poverty. But Saliv Sawad, the man who took the money, the man who sold out his own brothers for a bag of cash, he is the modern-day Judas. His confession proved that the greatest danger often comes not from the enemy at the gates, but from the traitor at the dinner table. Yet, as shocking as these details are, Saliv was just the middleman. He was just the puppet. The question that made the investigators freeze was simple. Who gave him the money? When Sawad finally spoke the name of his handler, it reopened a wound that Burkina Faso thought had healed. The name whispered in the interrogation room was Paul-Henri Damiba. For those who know the history of this region, that name sends a chill down the spine. Damiba is not just a random warlord, he is the former leader of Burkina Faso. He is a man who once sat in the very chair Traore now occupies. But according to the confession, Damiba wasn't working alone. The investigation revealed that this plot was allegedly supported and funded by foreign interests, mainly from the West. This confirms what many of you have suspected for years. The satanic freaks, as one of our passionate viewers called them, are not just watching, they are active. They cannot stand a leader who speaks openly against foreign control and corruption. They fear Ibrahim Traoré because he cut the strings that allowed them to treat Burkina Faso like a colony rather than a country. They want a puppet, but they got a patriot. Faced with this relentless betrayal, President Traoré made a decision that shocked the international community but rallied his people. He didn't ask for a UN resolution. He didn't ask for sanctions. He reportedly declared that any future coup attempt will face the death penalty. The Western media immediately cried foul. They called it harsh. But let's look at the reality on the ground. When you have survived 18 assassination attempts, when your enemies are paying millions to start a civil war, mercy becomes a liability. As the Bible says, there is a time for peace and a time for war. The people of Burkina Faso understand this. One commenter on our channel said it best. "Death for death. Stop disrespecting us." Another wrote, "They chose death, so they must get it." The government argues that constant coups keep Africa poor, divided, and dependent. By drawing this red line, Traoré is sending a message that is louder than any bomb. The days of forgiveness for traitors are over. If you come for the king, you better not miss, because the consequence is no longer just prison. It is the ultimate price. But while the government tightens its grip on internal security, a new threat is emerging from the shadows. The plotters realized they couldn't get to Traoré through the military, so they tried a different door, one that was wide open. And what they found there forced the government to shut down an entire industry. The enemy is cunning. When the front door is locked, they try to climb through the window. Investigators discovered a terrifying breach in the nation's armor. The plotters were not just recruiting locals, they were importing trouble. Authorities revealed that some individuals involved in spying and coup planning had entered the country pretending to be tourists. Think about that for a second. Men with smiles on their faces and cameras around their necks, walking through the streets of Ouagadougou, while secretly mapping out the destruction of the government. It was a classic Trojan Horse operation. They used the country's hospitality as a weapon against it. In response, the government took a drastic step. They suspended tourism agencies for 3 months. Now the critics, mostly from the West, have complained. They said this would hurt the economy. They worried about lost revenue. But President Traoré understands a fundamental truth that many Western leaders seem to have forgotten. A nation without borders is not a nation at all. For the people of Burkina Faso, this was a necessary sacrifice. As the government stated, safety must come before convenience. Security agencies are now combing through entry records and travel patterns, ensuring that no foreign intelligence agent can hide behind a tourist visa. This is what true leadership looks like. It is about making the hard call to protect your house, even if it costs you money. This brings us to the question that everyone in Washington, D.C. and across the globe is asking. Why is Burkina Faso the target? Why is this small nation in the Sahel facing more coup attempts than Mali or Niger? The answer is geography and influence. Burkina Faso is the key to West Africa. If Traoré succeeds, if he proves that an African nation can secure its own borders, feed its own people, and fight terrorism without foreign interference, He becomes a threat to the entire neo-colonial system. He becomes a symbol. And as we know, symbols are dangerous to those who rely on control. But there is one more reason why they want him gone. It is a reason that goes beyond politics and touches the very spirit of the continent. It is about who Traoré represents to the youth, and why his survival is being called a miracle by millions. In the end, this story is about more than just a failed coup. It is about a spiritual awakening. Supporters say that Ibrahim Traoré is being targeted not because he is a tyrant, but because he inspires the one thing the old powers fear most: hope. He speaks to the youth not with empty promises, but with a message of dignity and self-respect. He reminds them that Africa does not need permission to be great. History is trying to repeat itself. We saw it with Patrice Lumumba. We saw it with Thomas Sankara. But this time, the outcome might be different. Why? Because the people are awake. And because, as many of you believe, there is a divine hand of protection over this young leader. But we must remain vigilant. If the alliance of Sahel states does not solidify its unity in the coming months, the wolves will return. The enemies of Burkina Faso are patient, and they have deep pockets. The question we must ask ourselves tonight is this: is Ibrahim Traoré simply a man fighting for his country? Or is he the last line of defense for a free Africa? My friends, we are witnessing history in real time. This is Africa news, but it carries a universal lesson about courage and faith. If this story has touched your heart, if you see the struggle for truth in the eyes of these people, please share your thoughts and prayers in the comments below. We read every single one of them. If you believe in justice, in dignity, and that God protects those who stand for the truth, then show your support by liking this video and sharing it with a friend who needs to hear this. Subscribe to our channel as we continue to uncover the stories that the world needs to know. We will meet again in the next story, where the truth continues to speak. May God bless Ibrahim Traoré. May God protect the innocent. And may God bless Africa, the land of strength, hope, and an unconquerable spirit.